This is True North Story, the original podcast series. Learn, love, listen, live. Are you ready to discover your True North Story? With your hosts, Tama Fulton and John Hudson Messerol.
Radio has changed our lives and possibly saved our lives. Radio has changed our lives and possibly saved our lives. Radio has changed our lives and...
Dialing for dollars. Barry, where are you?
Back number.
Where is Barry? We know you're out there, Barry. I know you can hear this, Barry. We're trying to call Barry.
Hello.
I'm looking for Barry Friedman, please.
You got him.
I knew I did.
Hey, Barry, how are you?
Hey, John, good. I read up on you guys a little bit and listened to a handful of the stories, so I only believe part of what I read, so that's good. You know, small amount.
So we decided to just discard your biography, if you don't mind.
Oh, good. Yeah, exactly. You know that.
I mean, True North Story, we try and be super encouraging to people because we all, I know you can probably attest to this, don't necessarily know our purpose or what drives us. What gets us up out of bed in the morning right away. Some of us kind of, take a journey to get there. That's what True North Story is. It's learning your story, how you found the way that you're living now. And, it might not be the end of the story either.
It's almost more like a journey,
Yeah.
And I mean, Tam and I talk about this a lot. We want to inspire, encourage, motivate, and offer hope to our audience through the journeys of our guests. That's really what we're trying to do. And so it's an eclectic roster of folks. We appreciate, Barry, you coming on because you're going to bring a whole another
chapter.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a journey, so it's an arc. It's not where we are today, necessarily where we were yesterday, maybe where we'd like to go tomorrow, but it's just that arc.
I'm all over it.
I do know that quite possibly your growing up was a little bit different because of the hobbies and things that you enjoyed doing. I don't necessarily think that you were a cookie cutter kind of student and kid. Am I guessing, or is that?
No, yeah. In fact, childhood was horrible, filled with all kinds of abuse I would never wish on any enemy. But then one day when somebody taught me to juggle out by a pool when I was 15, and I realized it would never be that way again, and it never has been. And
well, Barry, what was it about the juggling that provided the exit strategy kind of for you from that world? You found something there.
Not only that, but we love to talk about how we are broken. I mean, each of us.
Oh, absolutely.
We are pieces of pottery that are chipped, and we are not the most attractive, but we're all beautiful because of that brokenness.
Yeah, amen. It's the truth. Well, so 15 years old, my grandmother had sent me to this summer camp in Southern California, and it was hot. It was in the valley somewhere, and there was a choice for our bunk that day when I was 15, and it was to go and play in the steamy little arts and crafts room. I don't know, macaroni noodles and whatnot, or go juggle by the pool. And this counselor was going to teach juggling by the pool, and I just figured within 10 or 15 minutes we'd be done with the juggling and we'd be in the pool. That's what called me, and I didn't stop juggling. There was about 12 of us out there that day, and I was one of the last people to get it. And when I got it, and it never quite went away. During that time, I realized that nothing would be the same. Nothing that was ever going to be the same. A friend and I, who was also in the group, we did this fun little show on the last day of the camp, and we kind of summarized a bunch of stuff that happened at the camp, and we made fun, and we got laughs, and we got applause, and I realized I would never, ever feel lonely again. I would never be abused again. I would never feel lost again. You say about the True North, what gets us up out of bed? That was the new thing that got me up out of bed, and that was, coming up on 40 years ago. And between then and now, what juggling has done is, 4 world championships, Tonight Show appearances, 6 TED Talks, thousands of corporate events around the world, and an amazing life, getting to fly around the world playing with people's funny bones, amazing them with stuff that just lights me up.
That is unbelievable. And to have found that at 15, or at least identified that at 15, and obviously parlayed that into an incredible journey.
Well, it found me, you guys. I wish I could say I found it, but I mean, the truth is, it felt so connected the first time I caught those 3 balls and just started doing it, and it felt so good. And I think there's something out there for each of us that, maybe it's definitively True North, but when it landed on me, started to work, and at the end of camp, and especially that first show me and my buddy did, when people were laughing and applauding and wanting more, and we were just having fun, our life was 180 degrees from that before that time. And it was aligned with that since that moment and ever after. And no matter what, there was always someone. There was a high school guidance counselor who I went back to after that summer camp. And he saw what was happening to me. The homework became less important, being able to do more tricks with clubs and fire torches, knives, machetes, yo-yos, anything. I do things in my show that are just crazy remarkable now. It's probably why I've been invited back to TED 6 times, just to connect weird physical stunts with things that are actually happening in the world, thought patterns, emotional twists, motivation at corporate events, a message that they want to deliver to their audience, be it a sales staff or a customer user experience conference. That was just there. That found me. Boy, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. I do have two brothers who, I don't know that they ever got that knock on the head. I don't know that they ever learned their juggling, and they went to the same camp. So I think it found me.
Wow.
What was life like? You said you found the guidance counselor and he found this fire that had lit under you. What was life like for you from 15 to, say, mid-20s?
Well, I always had his voice in my head. Mr. Pavliga, God bless him, from Van Nuys High School in Southern California. He told me I'd be broken homeless by the time I was 22. And not even a year past that I made my first Tonight Show appearance with Johnny Carson.
Holy cow.
Of some amazing performances on the Tonight Show over the years. But that was the very first one. And I remember being backstage, I should have been thinking about my opening joke. I should have been thinking about the trick I was going to do, which was very difficult and crazy difficult. But I was thinking about Mr. Pavliga and how wrong he was. In 1984, I won my first World Juggling Championship, 22 years old. Still performing at festivals, outdoor festivals around the country. My partner and I, I'm still together, one half of the Raspyni Brothers, we're still together 34 years later doing remarkably fun shows because it always came from this place of just wonder and keep pursuing what's ahead. And for us, it's been a joy. But yeah, the early years were something else. It was getting, as you can imagine, Tam, it was getting over a lot of stories of self-worth, value. Do I deserve this? Is this something I can actually do? Did I get lucky or I just got lucky? I mean, that was something that happened to me that still sometimes pops into my voice when I publish a book. I get that out, or I get on another TV show, or I get called for a 6th TED Talk. It's always, I fooled him again. There's that voice that it's very difficult to make it go away, but it's the constant work. It's the constant work of the artist, of the person that keeps wanting to head true north.
So you kind of grew up with, Barry, you're not good enough.
Oh, I could have that T-shirt.
And you're not alone, Barry.
They say it's an epidemic, that there are kids and people out there that just live with that chronically, that voice over and over in their head, that they're not good enough.
I'll tell you, that thing found me, and it comes from, I'm sure every listener can relate to this, discrepancy between this whole thing of, oh, what a beautiful boy, he can do whatever he wants, what a beautiful young girl, you can grow up to be whoever you want, the squelching of school, to the grades, to the pressure of grades, to the expectations of parents, to the voices of friends, to social pressure, and it just, what happened to the you can always be who you want. I'll tell you, when you go home and tell your mom and dad that school's not all that important and you want to be a professional juggler, all the stories that they gave me as kids came back crashing down real hard. They were a bunch of lies.
I had to find you, tell you I need you, and tell you I set you apart. So tell me your secrets and ask me your questions. And no, let's go back to the start.
It's really interesting because this is kind of a recurring theme that comes up with some of our previous guests on True North Story. When you ask the involvement or the engagement of the parents in either a supportive or a not so supportive way, it's really telling in a lot of cases as to the trajectory or a change in that trajectory of their pursuit of passion for whatever, whatever that is, whether it's musically or juggling in your situation or writing or filmmaking. And those whose parents were intimately involved and very supportive, backing them, it made a huge difference in that journey with a lot less obstacles to have to overcome.
And I can't blame my parents. I can't blame Mr. Pavliga, the high school guidance counselor. I mean, it would have been malpractice, I imagine, for him to say, oh, you want to be a juggler? That's great. Go for it.
Right, exactly. The counseling books weren't filled with successful jugglers.
Against my parents when they told me don't do this. Oh, Mr. Pavliga said it was great. He had to do what he had to do. And there's a piece of me that holds some gratitude and some anger.
Sure.
Yeah, I can be with both those, yeah.
So what was it like being on The Tonight Show?
The original, the Johnny Carson Tonight Show.
The original, when you didn't have to eat a snake or, be doing mind reading while you juggled. My partner and I, we had the top of the show. Johnny did his monologue, go into a commercial. They came back, and it was 8 minutes of comedy and juggling, both times we were on with him. A golden day that's long gone. The attention span doesn't exist in that way, but It was life-changing from the very minute the show ended. Billy Crystal or his people were watching, and that was in March of '86. Starting in July or August or something. Yeah, we were on tour with Billy Crystal, first show of like probably 6 years of touring with him. A few weeks after that, we started touring with Robin Williams, every show he did for 6 years. We were very funny, but didn't do anything topical. So every comedian, singer, everyone who was touring big shows, short of Frank Sinatra, favorite.
So hold on a second, Barry. So hold on a minute. Hold on one second here.
Yeah.
So here you are. You learn juggling, and now this is a big deal. This is your thing, and now you're a 20-something-year-old guy.
Yeah,
with
24,
with 24, and you have met Johnny Carson. You are on the road with Robin Williams and
Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal.
Yeah, Patti
what was
LaBelle.
that? Explain
Anytime
that
we had
to
an
me.
opening on our calendar,
These are huge people. For those of you who weren't alive in the 80s, I'm sorry. Okay, Johnny Carson and Robin Williams, I mean, these are big.
Huge names.
And here you are as a 20-year-old,
Warming up the
20-plus-year-old.
crowd.
Yeah, warming up. Tell me what that was like.
Well, a huge night was learning that Robin Williams also could have worn the shirt that said, "I'm not worthy." And I did learn that, in very big ways. Watching shows that he did, every single show he ever did in the 6 years I toured with him from the wings, just couldn't go back. That was my college. I didn't have formal education.
So it's kind of like that feet of clay moment where it was like this man who's incredibly funny is still broken too, like everybody else.
A lot like me, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot like me. And as we all learned, sadly, a couple of years ago, even more so, bigger the harder. Yeah.
I'll tell you, depression is brutal, as we all know and have members of our family who suffer from it. I mean, it can be a really dark place for a lot of folks.
Oh yeah, big as it gets, it's compounded, really to look at how high someone like that got. I have been married for almost 30 years. We have one son who's 14, and it's a level where I get to constantly do my work in private. I can do a big show, get a standing ovation, be at the airport the next day, and no one even looks at me, and I love that. Some people like Robin didn't have that, and I saw that. I got to see that traveling around with him. It was all of a sudden all about that. And if you're living with not good enough, not worthy, there's a small person inside of everybody, no matter how big, that if there isn't some time for that to recover, to recharge, there's a price. I'm very fortunate to have anonymity in my life and love of what I do. It's a golden combination.
What a blessing, right?
Yeah, and it's funny, a lot of comedians, a lot of performers are introverts at heart. I mean, I certainly am. Robin Williams was beyond words an introvert. And we look to that, to how do you recharge? Do you recharge in groups of people or do you recharge alone? If a person has a true calling for one way or the other and that's not available, there's problems.
My guess is that you kind of had to crawl back in a shell.
I get to every day. I have this wonderful office I built on my property. It's 160 square feet and it's beautiful and it's my shell. I coach, I create, I do my programs, I write, I build contracts, I talk on the phone, but oh my gosh, do I need alone time? It's incredible. And I walked 150 feet back to my house. My 14-year-old's jumping on me. Let's play ping pong. Let's go to the river. Let's go to the lake. It's always something, but it's very fun. I feel so blessed to have a balance between those. Someone very, very famous, if they're an introverted heart, there's a conflict there that will resolve in some way, sooner or later.
They need that time to decompress or recharge. And as a writer myself, I know, and sometimes you just need to just go away for a little bit. And that's okay. Get it all put back together and go back out and do it again. But so how do you identify new trick? Are you always thinking about that? Are you like, hey, what if we can push the envelope here or try this? Or what am I going to, TED Talks calls and they say, hey, Barry, we want you. We need something new and different. Where's that come from?
That's been such a great sharp stick in my side since 2000. The whole TED world is so funny when they call. You're like, okay, here we go. I got nothing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Got to come up with something.
You're hanging in this room with 1,000, 2,000 creative minds, and a lot of them know us from that community. So, it's funny. I became very aware of two different ways to look at life, probably back in the early 90s. Maybe it was during traveling with Robin so much. There was always a way to see things for what they were and then to put on this other pair of lenses, which kind of were the eyes of whatever you want to call it, a content creator or a comedian or just a bit of a skew. And I love looking at life that way. And I still do to this point. I just never really try and believe that what I'm seeing is the whole story. And that's powerful for me. It boils down to the point that I get it, I got it, and there's a whole nother chapter of my life I'm really playing with right now and having so much fun and helping people in ways that I never imagined. So it's a second act, and it's very fun. How can I turn what I'm seeing right now into something for one of my audiences that I'm talking to?
What is it that you think creatives need to hear or want to hear? What motivates them, in your opinion?
I'll tell you this. We have two intelligences. We have a gut intelligence, which ancient people talk about. It's still very much alive in Hawaiian cultures. And then there's this relatively new kind of brain intelligence. And the closer we can move to trusting what's in our gut intelligence. And we've all felt this. We've all heard something and said, I want to take action on that. Or we've seen something and said, that scares the hell out of me, and we run the other way. That's gut intelligence. The closer we can come to bringing that into our daily life, into our creative life, by a long shot, the more original, the more listenable, the more quotable voice we will have in this world. When we go from that instinct, that quick feeling we have in the gut that feels so true, and I just want to follow that, and we start running it through the nouns and the verbs upstairs, we will start hearing the voices of gurus, the voices of teachers, the voices of experts, all these things. And I'm doing air quotes around all three of these because we are the expert. We are the guru. We are the voice that needs to be heard. And the closer we get out of our gut and closer to our brain, the closer we're going to get to sounding like somebody else, and we're going to get lost in the noise. What can we do as creative? Oh, boy, we can take action way before we're ready to. Marissa Myers, I heard an interview of maybe 8 years ago. She was the head of user experience for Google. And she said, at Google, we're doing something every day that we're not ready to do. And that quote never left my mind. I just kind of fell in love with everything about her that day when I read that. Always be doing something you're not ready to do. And gosh, fail often. Please, fail often. I tell my coaching clients that I coach about the business side of show business, I say, if you come to our next meeting and you have 8 no's, I'm going to be praising you for probably 5 minutes. Don't come with no no's.
Right, exactly, because you haven't put it out there.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's scary. And boy, just fail often, fail early, and let's move forward.
We are raised in a world of fear of rejection, and like that's a bad thing. But to your point, if you never put anything out there, then what are you saving yourself from? You're not going to accomplish anything either.
Yeah, that's a great question. If any listener has a real good answer to that doesn't boil down into a pile that's indistinguishable from anything you want in your life, send it in. I'd love to read that answer to John's question there.
I'll let you know. Tam and I will go through our emails. There are millions and millions and millions of smart folks out there. Let's see who can come up with an answer to that question.
Yeah, someone have a good question from what you're protecting yourself from by not putting stuff out there, and I'd love to read it.
Well, and one other thing you mentioned in that answer that I really love, Barry, that Tam and I are running into a lot too, is the collect, is seeing that there is something bigger than yourself. And what role you play in that is up to you, but it's that it is not about you. Ultimately, at the end, you may contribute significantly in a lot of ways, but it's still got to be about the bigger picture, and that includes more people than just you.
I won't even add to that. It's we are pieces of a big puzzle, and do we want to say, hey, my piece fits right here? Let's do something. And even if it doesn't, it's got different color or it's a whole different shape than the rest of the puzzle. It's like, do you have something to add to this conversation? Do you have something you're willing to trust yourself on? It's funny when you guys invited me onto this podcast, I'm like, True North is big. I look at it and you guys got all these listeners and you got all these great people on. I'm like, okay, great. That's exactly the thought, the instinct that said yes to Tama, moving up towards my brain and starting to have that conversation. Then I go, then I want to be scared of what I say. So living it in action.
And we thank you for that, because I will tell you that that's the one thing about the podcast is that everyone asks, like I have gotten no less, I can't even tell you how many emails that Tama and I have gotten about people that go, oh, well, you always prep your guests, right? Oh, we always send them questions ahead of time so they know what they're doing. And Tama and I can honestly say we have never done that. We have never prepared our guests ahead of time or given them questions or told them what we're going to talk about. We want it to feel like it is in the moment, a conversation. Barry, John, Tama, this is what we're talking about. This is the arc it took that in that moment that day. And
that's funny. That was the exact feeling I held when I was asked by you guys and when I got the initial email. And I was 15 minutes before this looking through my emails to find the questions you sent, and I didn't find any. So perfect.
It's just perfect. It's like sitting around just having a cup of coffee and a chat and just learning about each other. And you know what? Our audiences appreciate that because it's authentic. It's Barry and Tama and John.
Love it.
Yeah, we love it too.
True North Stories, meant to inspire, encourage, motivate, and offer hope. And now, back to the program.
I try to fight the power, but I never seem to win. And I've been down a long time, but I've been coming back again. 'Cause I got fire, fire, fire. Shut up in my bones. I got fire, fire, fire. Shut up in my bones.
So we're turning the page here, and you've done juggling. You've done amazing stuff in juggling. And suddenly you decide you're going to make some lifestyle changes.
Well, it's hilarious. I mean, and I'll take you back to 2007, another key indicator that your audience can easily dig into. and maybe relate to and listen to this and think, wow, I'm hearing this for a reason right now. It was around that time, February 2007, I had just taken a couple of weeks off from performing with my partner, doing corporate events, traveling around. And my wife and my son and I, who was, he was 5 at the time. We're getting ready to turn 5. He was 4.5. And he had been around juggling and unicycles his whole life. So he's a very talented little circus guy himself. Our friends asked us, will you guys go in Southern California and do this handful of school shows talking about water, the water cycle, and do these assemblies? We had so much fun. I mean, it was unbelievable. We did, I think, 17 school shows or something in this 2 weeks, and just doing juggling and having fun, and kids coming up, and my son being exposed to being on stage and having these small parts in the show. And on the way home, I was saying to myself, what do I do to not spend so much? I'm going to get emotional. What am I going to do to not spend as much time on the road? 120 days a year in hotel rooms and on airplanes. What am I going to do? I want to do that. And it was probably, let's see, I got back from the trip. We drove back in my small town where I live up in the Sierra foothills of California. There was a Mardi Gras parade that day. I went to that. We're watching it. We're laughing, having fun. I see a friend of mine. He goes, you want to go mountain biking later that day? And I said, of course, the automatic answer to mountain biking where I live any day. And later that night, I came home with a broken collarbone almost sticking through my skin. It was broken in 3 or 4 places, shattered. I needed surgery. And guess what? I didn't spend the next 6 months on the road. I didn't go on the road one time. I didn't do one show. Instead, I sat in my bed in therapy trying to get my hand to work again, trying to get my arm to work, trying to make shooting pains down my entire forearm and my fingertips go away. And really not even realizing the blessing it was at the time. But what it was what I had driven home that day thinking about is how am I going to not spend so much time on the road?
And you got your answer because you couldn't juggle, right?
Couldn't juggle. Couldn't do anything, really. Sam, I slept in a chair with a heavy sandbag on my arm because when I moved it when I was sleeping, I'd get shooting pains that were just end of the world painful. So I got what I wanted, didn't come in a package that looked anything like I thought it might look. But what it gave me during that time was a chance to kind of look at my life and some time to slow down and say, wow, what if I never go on the road again? What could I do? And my wife, bless her heart, she had this amazing line. She said, the one thing that I know you're really good at is booking a juggling act for a whole lot of money. And I thought, wow, what a great answer to something I never would have come up with. I mean, something that's been performed for generations in the center of a court jester or, at a state fair or at a birthday party. Yeah, I've been able to get in front of the top Fortune 100 companies on the stages of TED and television and, get paid very well for doing something I love. So that led into the idea of maybe putting together a course where I got to teach other entertainers about the business side of show business. Did that from 2009 to 2000. I still do on some different level. I've created different courses over the years, and that turned into a group coaching program I do once a year. That turned into private coaching for a handful of performers that are really, really willing to step into playing at their greatest level. And I do private coaching with them. And then all that education taught me about how to even play on the internet and how to put up ideas and build an audience and offer a program. And and then the lifestyle change came. It was Leap Day of 2012. And my son, who wasn't quite 10 yet, but he said, what are you going to leap for Leap Day? And I thought that was the best question in the whole world because I'd never thought of Leap Day that way. And we had just eaten this big frozen yogurt with gummy bears and peanut butter cups, and I just felt really disgusting. And I said, I'm going to leave sugar for the day. So I went February 29th, 2012 without sugar, woke up March 1st with a feeling in my body and my mind that I had never imagined was around control and rested sleep and an understanding of, I don't know, just that I got to choose for a day what I put in my mouth instead of just defaulting to everything I'd always done. And, I'll jump ahead. The long story short of that, I'm 4+ years later and still never had a bite of added sugar in my food.
Holy cow.
And that's turned into another fun project I do with coaching and an online program. I've been running for about 3 years now, an online challenge called 30 Days Sugar Free. And boy, I've helped thousands of people all over the world just realize what it's like for 30 days to take inventory on what you want to eat and what you want to do. And I do break it to people around day 15 of the challenge that this really has nothing to do with sugar. And everybody agrees by then. Once you've conquered this little beast, anything else you want to do in your life is kind of easy.
So it's more mind over matter?
For the first couple of days it is. On day 4 when I was laying on a table and begging my wife to just lay on me and stop my body from shaking, that was mind over matter to not go grab something to eat. But it became the curve became where this felt better to do than what I knew from 49 years of living what I would feel like normally. No afternoon crashes, clearer skin, lost weight, the ability to truly focus. My wife, I think it was around day 21 in the challenge, she said, this is the first time I've seen you in a conversation instead of just at a conversation. And, for someone you've been married to 26 years at that time, to have that recognition.
That's a powerful statement.
Pretty remarkable, yeah.
Around the halfway mark, you tell people that it's not about sugar. So what is it about?
It's about mindset. It's about knowing our power as human beings. It's about making choices and not just listening to the soundtrack of what we've been fed our whole lives.
Sugar mama, sugar mama, sugar mama, where you been? Sugar mama, sugar mama, sugar mama, where you been? Sugar mama, sugar mama. Say you love me, sugar mama, and I never let you go.
And sugar is really one of the big places to look at. Since birth, we have every single person on this, I'll say in a first world country, although that's really growing with the availability of sugar, but just about anyone you'll ever meet has been bribed and rewarded and punished with sugar since the day they were born. Everything from you did a great job, let's go get an ice cream, to you've been a bad girl, no dessert. It starts early and it goes often, and somehow in the last 150 years, we've gone from 4 pounds of sugar for the very, very rich people a year to over 150 pounds of sugar for pretty much everybody a year. We have not evolved nearly fast enough to handle that uptake in sugar.
We consume that per person, 150 pounds of sugar a year?
Yeah, about 8 pounds every 3 weeks. When I go on TV shows talking about my book I wrote about sugar, I always juggle an 8-pound bowling ball, and I have the host hand it to me and say, how long do you think it takes you to eat that much sugar? And, the guesses are anywhere from, that's probably about a year's to...
Right. No one's guessing 3 weeks, Barry.
No one's guessing 3 weeks.
I got to tell you, you touched on something. You said that people have been bribed with sugar since the beginning of time or close to it. Is sugar symbolic of just our society in general? Like Tam and I talk about True North Story as knowing who you are, knowing the why behind your who, so to speak. Yeah. And you ask people, well, why do you do that? Well, I don't know. My dad was an accountant, so I became a CPA. Well, why are you an attorney? Why are you an airline pilot? I don't know. It's just, it's what I wanted to do. It's, but they can't tell you the real why. Why? I mean, what is it? I just think we get into mindsets, put in boxes, and we allow ourselves to get put into boxes that society says, oh, you're one of them. She's one of them. You're with them. You think this way. You think that way. And I start off with the sugar, but I've gone into a larger narrative here. But what do you think about society's influences on the choices we make?
That's a great point. Boy, that opens a big can of worms in my
Sorry.
brain. In this discussion. No, I love it. But I'll take it from the place of I'm the first person in my family that doesn't have a plaque on the door that says what they do. And I'm also the first person who has clear skin, a bright smile, no debt,
yeah,
whatever it is. There's a lot that aligns with that. And I'd say to that CPA, I would say to that attorney, did you pick that, or were you afraid to pick? When a magician comes up and says, pick a card, look, I'll give you an insider secret. That magician always knows what card you're going to take. Are you going to take the card that's easy, or are you going to...
yeah.
Next time a magician walks up to you, you're going to hear these words. But they always know what card they're giving you or where its placement is in the deck. Are you just going to take that? Because life does the same thing. If we don't look and really choose and really take the hero's journey, step into the fire, stand in the fire when people say no, or when people say you suck, or when people say, hey, you should do something else. If we don't stand in the fire, we will be redirected to the path of least resistance. And if there's a CPA, an attorney listening to this who's the happiest person in the world, you have my hands up in praise of
God
you.
bless you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want people who love their job. I love to work with people who love their job. I have an accountant who's done my taxes. Her daughter does it now, but the mom has passed away, but it's in the business, and she loves it. And it's since 1986. If there's someone who doesn't like what they're doing, it just means you stepped out of the fire.
And it's not just to put yourself on the line, It's to put yourself on the line to grow. It's to put yourself on the line to try and find out maybe that there are other things that you're really gifted and talented to do that maybe aren't in your immediate purview. And I think as a society, we would be so much better if people are impassioned and they're loving what they're doing and they're knowing their why and they're knowing who they are. And that's kind of full circle, going back to what Tam and I are trying to inspire in our audience through our guests on True North Story. To your point, Barry, to all you CPAs listening to True North Story that are very happy, or attorneys or airline pilots, God bless. You do a valuable service, and we are very appreciative. But it's okay to go out, like you said, and pick another card.
God, what a great analogy. Yeah. There's so many experts in this world. There's so many people that are good at their widget or their little niche of the world that it's easy to say, I can't do that or I won't be good enough. And I will tell you, as a juggler, I'm uniquely positioned to say this to you guys. Mark this down on your gray matter. You will never go from a 0 to a 10 in something you're passionate about. But is there something you can do for an hour a day or even an hour a week that moves you from a 0 to 0.5 or from 0 to a 1? Because once you've gone from 0 to a 1, that growth is exponential. And once you've gone from a 1 to a 2, that's 100% growth. And you'll never go from a 0 to a 10. And so many of us let that shut them down. I see my 14-year-old son's friends come over, and they know, I mean, our house looks like a Kmart exploded, you know, with juggling props and unicycles and fun things. But, you know, they'll step onto a unicycle for a second, or they'll pick up a ball and try and juggle it. And it's literally 1 second where they go, oh, I've never been able to do that. Oh, you're 14. There is no never in your vocabulary for one thing. If you want to do it, that's a way bigger question. Oh, I'd love to do that. We spend 3 minutes together, and they're juggling 3 balls. So, you know, that's a huge leap. But from that initial piece, if there isn't someone like me who's taken that journey around to mentor you, and you pick up your version of a juggling ball and you say, I've never been able to do this, and you walk away, I guarantee you're selling yourself and the world short.
Those are powerful words. Because you alluded to it earlier, Barry, about we live in a world with the attention span of a nanosecond. To these younger folks, you know, sitting down at a piano and they plunk a key and they're like, I could never learn to play the piano.
Right. Oh, my God.
Right. Like, why would I, you know, that might take actually months or years. God forbid. You know, that I would actually have to sit in front of this keyboard to become good at something.
You know how many other people's videos I can watch in that time?
Right, exactly. Exactly. Is the juggling business going to stay in the family? We know you've got your son. Are you working with him so that we can have a legacy here, or what's going on?
Is that his passion, or?
He's so funny. He has this little website called Easy Peasy, 4 letters, Jugglers. It's him and his buddy who are basically like the little Raspyni Brothers. They're so funny. They have all their own material. They do unicycles and they do hula hoops. But they're just these 14-year-old kids who make $500, $800 on a weekend doing parties, doing festivals. And I mean, it's kind of crazy, but you know, the downside of that is it's knocked us out of the park on a $5 a week allowance. That doesn't even play anymore. It doesn't come up as a big draw to him to do chores for that. Both, I don't want it to be his business, and I don't mind if it is, but it's funny. I was going to do a corporate date in Seattle the other day, and it was in the morning. I was leaving for the airport. I said, would you ever imagine yourself doing this, like having breakfast in the morning and then running up to a city to do a show that night? And he goes, Dad, I'm inheriting the family business, all right? It was pretty funny, but he also loves piano. He won a USA unicycling championship at 9 years old. He's out of control. He loves the scooter. He's got YouTube videos of his doing flips on scooters, and he's a very physical kid. But would I love him to follow my wife's path and go get a couple of MFAs and an undergraduate degree and, you know, write and do all these other I'd love anything he does, you know. I'd love anything.
That's supportive.
What do we want for a kid, man? We want him to be happy and feel a purpose in the world.
You have come full circle, Barry Friedman.
I have. Oh my gosh, Sam. And I didn't have kids, and I told my wife, we joke sometimes, why did it take us 15 years of marriage to have a kid? And I said, because I didn't want to recreate my childhood.
And you didn't.
No, you didn't.
And I didn't. And it
broke
took a lot of work. It took a lot of standing in the fire.
That's amazing. And your son, look at him. He's benefiting from that.
So fun.
From what you learned, your journey, you finding your purpose, that lesson you took by the pool at 15. Look where it's gone. It's amazing.
I'm proud to hold down the first generation in my lineage that I know about, and I know a ways back where there wasn't some physical punishment, discipline, abuse going on. And only touching I've ever done with my son is when we juggle 3, 5, or 7 clubs back and forth, and we stand back to back and we pass them over our shoulder.
And I'm sure there's a few hugs in there too. Which is,
and a whole lot of hugs every night.
Exactly.
Maybe the only 14-year-old who yells from the other room, "I love you, Dad," or I say, "I love you," and he says, "I love you too," and I say, "Not as much," and he says, "Yeah, you're probably right." So we have a fun script we play with that.
Yeah. I can only imagine that, you know, one of these days it's going to be, I come from a long line of jugglers.
Yeah. Go, oh my gosh, no. Well, the irony is, and this will tie back to what we talked about throughout this call, is the man who taught me to juggle at summer camp in Los Angeles. He took a month off to be a counselor at this camp from his law practice. So it's perfect.
Wow. Now that is full circle. That is completely full circle. Wow. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
Barry, if folks want to know more about you and how to get off of sugar and not have a love affair with sugar anymore, and they want to read your book. Tell us how people can find you.
You bet. Thank you so much. My juggling world, go check that out. Raspyni.com, Raspyni. Funny story behind that name you can read on the website. But we invented the word Raspyni before there was Google, so it makes it very easy to ego surf for us. There's no other word like that. That's at Raspyni.com. You can see some videos and TED Talks and whatnot of the juggling stuff. Sugar Free World, 30 days, sugarfree.com, 30 days, sugarfree.com. And menus there you can download and just jump in. And oh my gosh, if you're ever thinking, I don't need to feel like this every day, I don't need to have skin like this, my memory's falling apart, I'm overweight, I don't like the way my body looks, I don't like the way I feel, I can promise you, after helping thousands of people through this challenge, coaching thousands of people through every minute of this challenge, that it's so much connected to what you put in the mouth. As all of it is. I mean, we could do another whole podcast about protecting the 7 holes in our head. My gosh, but the mouth is a painful one. You know, what goes in comes out. So 30 days sugar-free will get you into that one. Anything else, if something came up in this conversation that you liked, write to John, Tama, myself, anyone. I'm happy to answer. You can find me basically any of the normal places in the world.
All the social media places, there you are.
Yes.
And we'll include links to all that.
And your book is on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, I love me more than sugar. I love me more than sugar. And yeah, that was a title that just after anyone who writes a book or sits in that fire of answering an editor and seeing all those red marks come back and dealing with it and waits for the title to be the last thing. What I just realized, and I said to myself at the very end, was, I just love myself more than sugar. That's why I'm doing this.
And we love you, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for being a part of our podcast.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you for listening to True North Story, the series. Follow us on Twitter @True North Story. And tune in next time for another True North Story.